What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are back with another takeaways video. Today, we are here to recap this Lions 28-13 loss to the Chicago Bears, man. We're going to be diving into it today. I'm going to tell you about some good that I took away, the bad that I took away, and also, we're going to go through some key plays from this game. So let's get it started. Welcome, everybody, to another video. Glad you guys are here, and yes, we are back with another takeaways video. Now, this is great on a Monday because you get to rewatch the game. I have rewatched the game. I've taken my notes from each play. Now, it's different. This is not like the All-22 where I can see the entire field. So there are things that I've missed, and it's happened before where there's something that maybe I thought I saw, and then I rewatched the All-22, and I'm like, okay, actually, I think that player played a little bit better. For example, Tracy Walker last week. I thought he was pretty darn good, and I didn't notice that until I went through the All-22 of the defensive side of the ball. So there will be things like that that stand out to me more. Maybe even a player that I didn't pick up on that I thought was really consistent that I didn't pick up on through the broadcast version that I will through the All-22. However, today, we're talking about those initial reactions after that first rewatch. For me, it helps me because I'm able to take a lot of emotion out of it. It's not right in the moment as it just happened. I get away from it, I come back to it, and then I'm able to see things, I think, a lot more clearly. Now, I'm going to keep this video very simple. I'm going to tell you right now exactly how this thing's about to go down. Every time I do this, I'm being as honest as I can. Exactly what I see, what I take away, that's what I'm telling you guys, okay? If you think it's too positive or whatever you think it is, that's just what I see. I'm telling you what I'm taking away from the game. But this video specifically, I'm going to tell you right now, man, I'm going to make it real simple. Like, this is what I'm taking away. This is how I see it. If you don't have to agree with me, but I'm going to show you examples of certain things that I see, and I'm going to make it that simple. The key plays that I show, the players that I thought stuck out, the players that didn't on initial watch. And look, I completely understand it. Why I'm saying this because I understand where fans are upset with how this game went down, where a lot of people are upset with, if you look at the statistics or how games have been close and some of the turnovers, like, it's very understandable. I think you have to take every game individually. I think once you start piling things together and all of a sudden you start throwing the numbers to it, things can look good. They can also look not so good. But on top of that, I think as you take them individually, you also have to look at, are there trends? Is there something that keeps popping up that's an issue? Because that can really give you a sense of where are we good and where are we not so good. And I think these last few weeks we've gotten some clarity on areas that we struggle. And I think this week, honestly, a lot of those things, they kind of popped up again. But with that, it's a good thing because it's clarity to me. And I think we know where we're at as a team, and that's a positive. What do we know? What do we have more clarity on as issues going forward that maybe we have to hide or we have to find a new answer? Maybe we got to start searching for new answers that we haven't found yet. And then also at the same time, what things can we build on? Because again, a loss, it's not great. You never want to lose, but there usually is things to build on. I think in this one, it's definitely positive, specifically against the team that we played. So with all that being said, I got some notes and then we'll show some clips as well. Let's start with the notes that I have from this one. Like I said, I broke it down into really two categories here, good and bad for my initial rewatch, my first initial rewatch using the broadcast version and taking notes from each play. We'll start with the good section. I mean, we can really bounce around here. It doesn't really matter. We'll start with the good, though. The first thing that I want to point out, we talk about first down efficiency, and I think when you're talking about bad there, you talk about the Lions offensively. But defensively, I actually think there was a lot of positives on what the Lions did on first down, the way they handled business on first down. To me, a lot of that came back to, if you go right to the middle here, handled zone read. I think a lot of it came back to that. I understand Fields, he had like 58 yards rushing as a team. Their rushing stats, they don't look great defensively. I think it was 34 carries for 140 yards. However, the designed run plays that we defended against Justin Fields, 58 is not good. All right, we're the worst team coming into this game statistically in terms of yards per game allowed to a quarterback, but we allowed lower than our average on the season, and especially against Fields, he usually puts up easily 100 plus yards on us. This was a big improvement. That's not to say it was great, but it was a big improvement. But really, where I think a lot of those stats we saw them come into play was more so the pass defense and the ability to take off and scramble, maybe a missed sack, maybe a mess up in terms of the stunt that we ran with Levi where he got out to the edge, where Alex Anzalone didn't come up with a sack, rather, or maybe some interior inability to really contain him in the pocket, rather than the designed runs. I mean, he had some flashes in there, but specifically the zone replays, he would pull it down and take off. The way that we handled that was massive because that has been an issue for us going back to last season against Carolina when they had Sam Darnold doing that to us. It's been a problem. But this game, the Lions improved that a lot. And I give credit to the players there, whether that's John Kaminsky, Derek Barnes, who had to play on the line of scrimmage, his ability to consistently get outside, force contain, force him to get back inside, force him to run into John Kaminsky, the linebacker position as well. They played that really well. If anything, we limited those. Sometimes we created negatives. You also talk about some of the sweeps that they tried to run the field. Fields. I know there's a specific example where we did create a negative there, and last time we played Chicago, we kind of settled in against the run. This game, I thought we were much better just coming into the game. They did score on their first drive, but I thought coming into it, we were a lot better at handling that specifically. Look, there's not a lot of teams that play exactly like the Bears, but there is that Bears team that we're going to deal with as long as they have Justin Fields, and they'll probably have that element to their offense. And the fact that that didn't beat us, I think is a positive, because in the past, you could point to that and say, that kind of beat us. And I didn't think that did that today. Here's the second thing, and I say good, but this is really something that I need to see more of, the cornerback position. And I think we can point this, and shout out to my man in the Bleacher Report. He was in the comment section. He brought this up because I wasn't even thinking about it. I was talking about something else, and he was like, hey, well, what about Tyson Alualu? And I was like, oh, snap, I forgot about that guy. But the reason I bring this up is because these veterans, if you look at the veterans that we've signed, there's no coincidence on why they've signed certain players at certain positions. Bruce Irvins to be that edge rusher without James Houston. That brings you the athleticism, the speed, the quickness off the edge. There's no coincidence why they signed Kendall Vilder and they gave him snaps in this past game because of the inconsistency we've had in terms of some of that number 2 cornerback play. I think this game was the best example. Jerry had some really good plays in this game, and then he also had some not so good. Now, of course, that 4th down touchdown, there should have been intentional grounding. I'm not going to sit here and blame it on the refs that we lost this game. I'm not doing that. Should have been a grounding. It wasn't. Reality is it's a 4th and 13. Aiden Hutchinson jumps off sides. Because of that, the defense looks late to rotate. You go single high. You go cover one robber. All of a sudden, Kirby's got to go from one side of the field to the other to give him support. But Jerry's beat by DJ Moore one-on-one. The issue that I have with this is the same issue that I had against New Orleans. The Lions allowing Jerry Jacobs, your number 2 cornerback essentially, who plays right cornerback, allowing him to line up with DJ Moore and not giving him help in a 4th and 13. Don't have an issue with Aaron Glenn trusting his players. We know that with Glenn, he's going to trust his guys to make the play, but there becomes a point in time where something has to give. And the thing is this, I like Jerry Jacobs, but when teams, just like the New Orleans Saints game, are putting their top receiver on that left side because they know they're going to get the right cornerback matchup and you're not going to follow with your cornerback, you have to make a decision, I think, somewhere along the line to say, look, we trust you, Jerry, but this is not the best matchup, so we're going to have to give you some sort of support rather than just potentially giving you some middle field help. Now, again, the issue with this play is it wasn't just Jerry Jacobs. You jump off sides, so then Aiden Hutchinson gives them a free play, then he drops into coverage, so you're not even bringing like your cover 1 blitzes like you were, then you roll your safety down, which is understandable because guys like Brian Branch in the slot, they have to deal with a 2-way go, you want to give them middle field help. That makes sense. Then over top you have a single high safety, but they seemingly are late to rotate because they weren't expecting the snap because they were offside on the play. So it's not all Jerry, but he was beat one-on-one, and it's very, very similar to exactly what happened to New Orleans when they got Jerry Jacobs matched up with Chris Olave and they got over top. Again, I like Jerry Jacobs, but I think there is that point where we start to look at these free agent signings and there is no coincidence why the Lions have signed specific free agents that they have signed. And to me, I'll know more when I'm able to watch the All-22 and really see how Kendall Vilder actually performed in coverage. But what I could tell from the first initial takeaway, he didn't look that bad. He gave up the reception to DJ Moore on a slant, but he contested that thing. You had a really good screen stop where he caused a negative. You had a zone coverage stop where he limited to a short yard gain. You did have a miscommunication in a goal line or a red zone situation, which probably would have been a walk-in touchdown, but he missed the throw. But he didn't look bad, and I would not be shocked if we continue to see those guys rotate because they need to figure out who's going to be the answer there. Because if you're not going to put safety help over top, and I understand it's difficult to just put a single safety over top of him or give that much support, especially because then you have to have everybody else on an island. But you either got to say, hey, everybody else go win one-on-one, or someone else has to be able to handle that responsibility if you're going to keep asking that of them. And at this point, we've gotten beaten on that a few too many times. Again, there was a lot of factors outside of Jerry on this play, but he did get beat one-on-one, and you did give up the touchdown. I want to hop in here and give a shout out to our partner for this NFL season, and that is BetUS, man. We've been talking about them throughout this season, and if you are into sports betting, or maybe you're into playing casino games or any online type of betting, definitely click that top link in the description. If you deposit at least $100, you can get a 125% match up to $2,500. That's what stands out about that deal. But with that, BetUS offers everything you could want if you're into sports betting. For example, of course, you have your odds and your lines. You also have props that you can dive into as well. We do this every single week on this channel, every Saturday usually, where we take a look at player props that we like for the week. Now, you also have options of game game props, halves, quarters, anything that you want to dive into for each individual game. Here, for example, Titans versus Dolphins, if we said, okay, Will Levis, I think he's going to throw the ball a ton in this game. They're going to have to come back against Miami. We can go that over on pass attempts, and you can build out a bet slip here, or also use some of their pre-built parlays as well. Everything you could think of: tennis, ice hockey, baseball, horse racing, cricket, darts. They have a ton of options that you can choose as long as you make an account with BetUS. They also have the race book as well if you're into that. Again, as we touched on, the casino games, so maybe you want to get a little blackjack going. There's tons of different options on their casino games. It's their loyalty program. If you start making bets, if you sign up and you start making bets using BetUS, all of a sudden you'll get thrown into their loyalty program. You can work your way up into higher rewards and perks with BetUS. As you can see, for example, free payouts, a toll-free number, bigger bonuses. Here are the loyalty tiers that you can kind of work yourself into as long as you're making bets with BetUS. Tons of different promotions. So whether you're a customer that's just re-upping, you used BetUS before and you're like, hey man, I want to get back to it, or if you're for a first-time customer, you can see that they have a ton of available bonus offers as well. Sign-up bonus, crypto sign-up bonus, prop builder, also the live betting, which will update as games go on. Maybe the spreads change or the lines change. We've seen at halftime, I think, a 27.5 point spread when there was an absolute blowout taking place. So you can kind of update your bets based on how games are going live if you create an account. And then finally, one thing that I love to always look at here, NFL futures. And of course, you can get into college football, things like that, but futures in terms of who's going to win the NFC, who's going to win the Super Bowl, who's going to win the MVP award. You can dive into all of the future betting as well. So great customer support. Easy way to get into contact. There's an FAQ page if you have any questions about how BetUS works. With that, I want to give a shout out to BetUS. Top link in the description. At least $100, you get 125% match to $2,500. Let's get back to the video. Bruce Irvin, the Lions wanted an athletic edge defender that could play the sandback role, that could rush the quarterback, and also be solid in ability to drop into coverage. Now, he didn't play in this last game. Maybe Dan Campbell has already addressed why he didn't play. Maybe it was an injury thing. I think it may have been more of a schematic thing because against this team, you don't want to rush around the edge. You want to play through their tackles, collapse the pocket. If you look at when we had success on fields, it wasn't when we necessarily won blocks and got sacks around the edge very quickly because we didn't finish those plays. Alex Anzalone missed a sack. We didn't finish those plays. It was more so when he just held the ball for a very long time. We held up in coverage. We didn't bring necessarily a blitz, and all of a sudden now he started to roll out of the pocket, and then someone finished on the play. That's when you had success. And I think you could point back to Aaron Glenn and say, hey, man, maybe stop bringing the cover one blitz because it's not working. We're not getting free rushers. We're not winning enough, fast enough. And in coverage, there was an example where Jerry gave up that play to DJ Moore, the first down. You bring a cover one blitz. It's like, hey, look, it's great. Even if you get one-on-one across the board and someone wins quickly. But if the first read is there, and we talked about this against New Orleans, it won't matter if the first read is there. And man coverage was working for us against Green Bay. It was better than zone coverage, so I understand why they're doing it. I don't hate them for playing man coverage more. But then two things. Number one, back to pass rush lanes and how important those are because that's basically all the eyes on the quarterback. In the interior, we weren't great today. We also missed some opportunities to finish. But then on top of that, you better win. At very least, you better take away his first read, especially if you're going to bring a blitz to give yourself a chance. If you can't take that first read, all of a sudden a blitz, and a lot of times gets negated unless you have an absolute free rusher like Jalen Reeves-Maybin did on his one sack. This thing digs deeper than just Jerry Jacobs and Kendall Vilder, but it is something the Lions are going to have to figure out. But to kind of transition to another point that I kind of made at the bottom right there, interior defensive line. Not only at times that I think, we weren't able to contain as well. Some of that's kind of the players that you have the personnel. They're not super agile. So laterally, if there's a lot of space, we're not going to be able to keep up with him. But also on top of that, because we don't play a spy, but also on top of that, we don't have much, if at all, run to pass rush ability. The ability to play the run, transition to rushing the passer. That was Aleem McNeil. He was our guy on the interior. We didn't make a move at the trade deadline. Now without Aleem, we really don't have anybody that brings that. Now here's the issue the Lions are running into with that, is we saw it in this game. The Lions will try to bring slot blitzing. They'll try to bring edge blitzing. That way they can allow a guy like Kaminsky or Pascal to jump inside, get a matchup on a guard, so that way they can take advantage if their guard play is not great or get that matchup that they like, because those guys aren't necessarily the best at rushing tackles because they don't bring a ton of the we're going to beat you on edge. They win through tackles. So if you're not getting wins that way, and usually they take a little bit longer to collapse the pocket, if you want quick wins, you got to necessarily get inside with those guys. And the issue with that is they don't have the body type to play in the inside inside on early downs. So now you're forced to do something different. Either that's hold Derek Barnes down, where we saw us give up a reception because Derek Barnes is on the edge. He's way down, way too late on the play. They go right over top. You're like, what happened defensively? He has the flat though, but he's down and he lets the running back get behind him. They pick up a chunk. Or it's we have to bring someone off the edge to get him to slant inside. Then you have kind of those issues, and all of a sudden once you do that, now you're leaving a vulnerability in the back end because now there's going to be a hole that's created, and we saw that in this game. I think we could hide it better off the slot. All of a sudden, safety's got to roll over top, take it away. It's just easy. If the offense is in sync, they read the hot read, sit down, it's an easy completion for them because the safety is too far off, and I thought that happened a couple times to Iffy, even on the first down on the crossing route. That happened a couple times, but that's what the Lions was starting to do in this game. That's where a guy like Tyson Alualu, you point to him and say, hey, look, in the meantime, we're going to need some help. I mean, if you can get back, and he may not play by the time until Liam's back. So in that case, we're going to have to figure out how to win without it. We definitely can, but it is something that when you talk about, down the road, we're going to need more help there. Tyson Alualu has to be able to give us something there. Bruce Irvin gives us something as a type of pass rusher until James Houston get back. So there's no coincidence why it was corner, edge rusher, defensive lineman, offensive line because of the injuries. There's no coincidence why it's still specific spots, and why the Lions now win in this game with KO'd and not Colby, and that's why they signed a guard and they keep bringing in veteran guards because they know that those are the clear issues on the team right now, and they're trying to kind of cover them up. So you got to figure out how do we cover them up, but at the same time, some of these veterans are going to have to come through and help us. I think we're at that point where it's a good thing because we know what the issues are, but these guys are legitimately going to have to step in and give us real support defensively. They can't just be there. They actually have to help us. With that being said, one positive I took away, and I think I'll know more when I watch this again through the All-22, was Levi. Levi, I don't know exactly how he played against the run. Again, I'd have to watch that again, have a really good sense of it. He didn't play a ton of snaps, but between Benito Jones, I would like to see a little more Isaiah Buggs in terms of, I think he can give us a little bit more in pass rush, especially playing to run to rushing to passer. But between Benito Jones, Broderick Martin, Bohanna, you're just not getting any pressure in the interior. But Levi did give us a little bit. He drew a holding call. He had another opportunity where he's chasing down the quarterback. He does give us something inside. So maybe the Lions can find something there with Levi. He would absolutely help us out because we just don't have really anything right there right now for a guy that can actually play in there on rundowns, but also get pressure from the interior. They're hard to find, those guys. We don't have a lot of answers currently on the roster, and that's something that the Lions are trying to deal with at this point in time. You look at the Iffy situation, just to speak on that, the Lions are playing more man coverage defensively. We are seeing that. And again, this is something that I don't necessarily hate because we did the same thing against the Green Bay Packers. We started to play more man, and it was more successful. So playing the man coverage isn't a problem, but the Lions are seemingly now transitioning more into that. They came into the year, they were very balanced. A lot more zone coverage than man coverage. That's balanced now in the NFL. But last year, they were a very man-heavy team. So when we come into a game like this, it felt like, hey, we know we want to play cover one. We know we want to put a safety down on the tight end. We're going to get a lot of man defensively, specifically on pass downs. We're going to go with Iffy, seemingly to get that matchup on the tight end. That's kind of my assumption of it. May be wrong, but I think that's why they did that, because we need those matchup pieces. Again, that's not a problem, but the issue becomes if they get a matchup they like and you don't send help, or that guy doesn't win that battle, even if you bring pressure, even if you win, you get a blown block offensively, if it's not a free rusher, he's still probably getting the ball off unless it's 3rd and 15 plus. So in that case, you're still losing that matchup. So it's worked better for us, but we just need more consistency there. I don't have a problem with it. Now, when you speak to zone coverage, I do think the Lions, one issue that they have had is they get too predictable in zone. I thought that Green Bay Packers game, when we talked about that game, and I was like, yo, I thought they had answers for us. Is why man worked way better than zone. We put the stats on the screen. I went through every play, and I was like, look, man versus zone, we were way better in man. But I thought for us in that game, we came into that and they had a plan. They knew what we wanted to do situationally, and they were getting guys wide open. And I thought we saw that in the second half of the Green Bay game. The issue was they were in such a hole, it didn't really matter. But the next time around, they saw us again. They're like, yo, we got answers to that. You look at this Chicago game, and I think there's some situations, specifically on early downs, where we can get pretty predictable. Now, this is kind of the case with a lot of teams, right? It's like, okay, here's the situation. We're going to play this coverage. But the Lions do get pretty predictable. Lions can get predictable defensively when they go in the zone of what they're playing. Not just pre-snap, because a lot of teams make checks at the line. They can get a sense of what you're going into. But more so just like, are we going to bring a linebacker drop out from the backside? Like, where are we bringing certain things from to kind of throw guys off? And that's where the Lions, I think, got a little bit predictable in zone. Continuing on with some of these notes, Jahmyr Gibbs, just a quick little point to this. Jahmyr Gibbs, I thought last week I showed a couple of plays and I was like, yo, I see some like real ability as a rusher with the ball in his hands. Like, I thought he flashed some special last week. And all of a sudden this week, This, to me, was by far his best game with the ball in his hands. When the ball was in his hands, his ability to make guys miss, picked up a clutch third and short situation like a 3rd and 3, just making guys miss at the line of scrimmage. The screen that he caught, just making guys miss. Jahmyr Gibbs looked really good with the football in his hands. I think the best that he's looked all season. He looked incredible. He put together a really strong game, although he did drop the screen. Now, we're going to talk about some of the bad here in transition. You can see one of my notes, I put inches early. What do I mean by that? Well, early in this game, I thought there was a lot of things that came down to by inches. We missed just by inches, just a little bit off here, a little bit off there, stalls the drive, having issues. Now, we'll also tie that along with the penalties. Okay, people think, for some reason, people think this is an excuse. No, this is reality. This is actually what happened. Penalties. The Lions had 8 penalties in this game. On the season coming in, they were averaging 5.6. So that's 2.5 more in this game. So this is not something that the Lions normally do. 8 penalties was not good. But also, a lot of these, number one, were also on the offensive side of the ball. I think it'll help a lot to get Frank Ragnow back. Now, that's not to say that's going to fix all our problems because we had a lot of false start penalties, but there are examples like this, for example. We just have an underneath completion. It's 2nd and 5. Fantastic. You get up to the line of scrimmage, and look, we're still wildly in the game here. Like, there was like 5 minutes, over 5 minutes to play. We're down 2 scores. We score here. This thing is a game. I mean, it's not a great spot to be in, but it's a game. And the ball's not snapped. Everybody else jumps and does a false start. So we had that. I'm not putting this on Graham Glasgow. We also had the muff snap. You can put that more on Goff if you want to, but the reality is I'm hoping that Frank Ragnow, getting him back, will add more stability to this because this was bad. It was the worst that our offensive line has played in terms of pre-snap that we've seen in, I think, 2 years. Okay, this was awful pre-snap from the Lions in this game. Now, the positive is, do I sit back and say, man, I think this is going to be something we see every week? Absolutely not. I have no reason to believe that that's something we're going to see every week because it hasn't been an issue every week this season. This was an issue in this game. It was really bad, and I'm hoping either with Frank Ragnow back or with another week of Graham Glasgow at center, that cleans up. Whatever it takes, that has to be better because you're getting them all across the board. I'm not even just saying how they blocked. Like, we had some success run blocking in this game. We had our missed blocks as usual. You know, we had our missed blocks on a 4th and 1 where both Laporta and the pulling offensive lineman both missed the same guy and it shuts down the run. We had things like that. I thought Taylor Decker did not pass protect well at all in this game, and this is an area where we needed him, but it was specifically when we were at obvious passing downs. I didn't think he pass protected well. You see him here on the stunt, doesn't even get back outside to help us out, so that wasn't even just a one-on-one. He just didn't get back out on the stunt. I didn't think he pass protected that well, but I'm talking pre-snap. This was as bad as it gets. I know it sounds, oh, well, no, the offense still has to be good. I hear you, but the thing is this. You can't have every positive negated. You can't be behind the chains over and over and over and over. And we just lived there, specifically to start the third quarter. We just lived behind the chains. I mean, everything was behind the chains. Back them up. Positive, back them up. It was bad. It felt like I was watching the Lions from 2 years ago. I don't expect that to continue to be an issue, but it was an issue in this game. But what I tie along with that is inches. I can show you multiple plays on that first drive of the Lions felt like they're right there. You know, Alex Anzalone had a shaky start, missed tackle on an underneath pass. Cam Sutton just misses a pass breakup. Alex Anzalone gets called for a 15-yard penalty. But you can also look at the offensive side of the ball. This 3rd and 10. Okay, it's a 3rd and 10, he dropped it. Who cares? Well, it matters. Here's why it matters. First off, again, we talk about being in 4th and long. We're in a 3rd and 10 spot. If we're going to go for it, which the Lions clearly already made up their mind, they're going for it because they're at the 35. They don't want to kick it. At least pick up half it. Not only are we talking half it, if he catches this, it's probably a touchdown. It's a good read pre-snap. The look that they were giving for pressure. We hit a screen. Great. But he drops the ball. This becomes more and more amplified in a game like this because now it's 4th and 10. You still want to go for it, but now the defense knows you have to push it past the sticks. So for the Lions, that's where you get your interception. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that in a second, okay? Again, I thought Jahmyr Gibbs played really well, but in a game like this with all these negatives, things like this become more and more amplified. The reason it's important is because on a 4th and 3, the Lions picked up the first down. Why? Because it was a 4th and 3. They were able to hit Donovan Peoples-Jones, middle of the field. First time getting him involved. That's a positive. We're seeing Peoples-Jones get the football now. He's been playing red zone snaps. Now he's getting the ball outside of that. He seemingly has a route tree that they like because, again, certain routes that he runs, J-Mo is not really the best suited for, but he can run some of those contested catch routes. I think he gives us that value. We finally saw it here, and he broke a couple tackles along the way, so it was great, but limiting those 4th down spots, again, you drop that pass, now it's 4th and 10, then we throw the interception. And again, I don't really have an issue with the interception necessarily. And this is where we'll pull it back. And again, I said I'm going to keep this simple. I'm going to tell you exactly how I feel after this game. Okay, I hear the stuff, I see the stuff about stats about Goff and the turnovers. You keep every game individually. We've went through them. We went to Chicago where the first play receivers knocked off the route. Second interception, you know, it was a tip pass, but I didn't think the decision was great anyway. I think it was the 3rd interception, or maybe that was the 3rd interception. The other interception was, I think he tried to move the linebacker lost the backside linebacker through the interception. All three came in cover 3. The first one I thought was pretty whack, but it happened. All right, then you go on to the next game, and you have the fumble against Green Bay, right, trying to take off on a play. We went through all these plays individually. I don't need to go back down this road, but every play happens individually. Then he plays New Orleans, and he cleans it up. He plays one of his cleaner games with pressure, finds guys off schedules. He cleaned up a lot of those issues immediately when we saw him again. And don't tell me it's just outdoors, because all 3 of those games were indoors. Chicago, Green Bay, New Orleans, all of those are indoors. That's not an outdoor thing. Turnovers versus no turnovers. They were indoors and indoors. They were both indoors there, and he cleaned it up. Now, this game against Chicago, you want to tell me it's outdoors? I guess so. But again, you're just throwing me the interception numbers. It doesn't mean anything to me because I want context behind it. These 2 interceptions don't bother me at all. Maybe I'll see more on the first interception, and I'm like, oh man, maybe he could have done this. But it's a 4th and 10. You know you're going for it. They know you have to push the sticks. Good play by Jalen Johnson. The Lions were running levels. They had J-Mo. Then they had St. Brown underneath, who wouldn't have got the first. Maybe on catch and run. They had Laporta. He tried to go second level. Jalen bit down, so he went over top. Jalen backed up, picked it off. Okay, maybe the route concept should have been better there, if anything. But you get picked off. It kind of worked out like a punt because they started at their own 12. So I didn't have an issue with that one, right? Interceptions need context. Then you look at the last one. It's a 4th and 24. You're going to sit there and tell me that play was the difference? Oh, that turnover got it? No. Like, again, context to it. To me, like, that one didn't mean anything. You're just heaving it up. The game was over. You had a 4th and 24. There's nothing else you could do. At least he threw the ball. I mean, he could have threw it away, I guess. At least he threw the ball on the play and tried to do something with it. So, again, I don't have an issue with necessarily those 2 interceptions. The fumble I have an issue with because in the second half, we had no efficiency on first down, whether that was missed blocks or it was negatives on first down or it was an example like this where Amon-Ra St. Brown seemingly just stops running his route for whatever reason. We had essentially no success for our hot reads offensively, meaning that if we got to the line and we changed the play to the right call for what they were showing, we were fine. And it wasn't that the decision making to me was bad. It was that for hot reads, when they brought pressure, they brought a linebacker and dropped out, the quick passes that we were trying to get underneath, was Laporta that was batted down, or it was Gibbs underneath. Those quick passes that we were getting out, they were going nowhere. And I think one thing that the Lions should have done is probably leave someone in to pass protect. They should have left someone in to pass protect, in my opinion. I thought coming into this game, that was one of my thoughts, maybe more pass protection from the back. We didn't really do that. We kind of let them go out. But the issue is that linebackers for Chicago, they don't show the blitz. So they're not showing it to you, and then it comes on the play, and Goff's like, quick read, let me get that out. Or here comes the slot, let me get that out. But then they still cover it up. You might be hitting that hot read, but if you get an unblocked player, and even if they're not blitzing and everything's covered up, you might get the ball out fast, but you're not going anywhere. That's still a win for the defense. So I think one thing the Lions, hindsight, probably would have said, at least I would have said, maybe leave a back in more often to pass protect. I understand you're down 15, you don't want to, and you're trying to, kind of work more underneath, but unless you're going to run Jahmyr Gibbs on more complex routes than just running him into the flat, which I don't love either, then you have to leave someone in to pass protect, in my opinion, against this team, because even if they say, oh, you're leaving him in and you have to delay him and he has to wait and see and then leak out, what's the difference to me between that and you running him on a flat? There is no difference. Run a legit route with him or have him pass protect. I don't like the idea of us we're just going to roll him out to the flat. Like, it's not working. Not against this team. Other teams, that's fine. This one, it didn't work. Even when we hit high reads, it didn't work. But here, St. Brown, right? You had a good read. You snap it. You see St. Brown dragging the middle. It's man coverage offensively, and he stops running his route. Put it on whoever you want. I know against man, usually you're trying to run through the route. He stopped. It's incomplete. There was also one. I would put that on Saint. There was also one. But the issue with that is it was 2nd and 15. So already behind the chains. So again, not only do you now not cut in half, so you can't really convert. Now you have to just go underneath to Gibbs. Now all of a sudden you're punting the ball again because, again, you get behind negatives and you miss an easy completion. But then you go later in the game, Laporta sits down his zone, Goff leads him, it's incomplete. So we had 2 of those. Thought the first one was on Saint, I thought that one was on Goff. Regardless, though, we didn't have much success there. And I think when you look at those plays, really any success whatsoever on some of those hot reads. So when I look at this in general, if you're like, oh, okay, what did you take away from watching the broadcast version? Because I haven't got to the All-22 yet. I don't sit back and say, man, this is an issue. Like, Goff was playing so bad, we're going to have no chance. I don't. And you can disagree with me here. That's absolutely fine. Do what you want with it. I mean, look, I'm just telling you how I feel. And you can say whatever you want, but this is how I feel with it. You can sell your stock on Goff and that this team is not going to be able to get bounced back because Goff is playing terrible or whatever you want to throw at me. I don't believe that whatsoever. All right, I know Goff has limitations. I think we know what he's good and what he's not so good at. But specifically from this game, and we've broken down the other one, specifically from this game, I didn't walk away like Goff played absolutely terrible. Could he have played better? Absolutely, right? Some of the little things underneath. Or specifically a play like this, where again, they bring the linebacker, and you see the timing for some reason. It's like, why is the timing a little off? I think it was off because of this. Seemingly, they go into a cover 3, safety rolls down to take St. Brown, seemed like an option route. So Goff was maybe an option route, maybe it was just an in-breaking route. But on top of that, now when they bring the linebacker, Gibbs doesn't step up and hit him in his chest, he kind of waits on him. So now Goff seemingly tries to give him a little bit of a pump to like try to get him to jump or get him out of the way so he can hit that window pass instead of just throwing it into the linebacker. And once he does that, the time he gets thrown off just a tad, now the ball's behind him and he can't catch a contested catch. So all of a sudden it's incomplete. So there were things like that. But when we had an opportunity, we're trying to make this late game comeback, it wasn't like Goff was like making awful decisions. I thought, and I stepped away from the first half, I was like, actually, I think he made a lot of good decisions outside of one. I don't even know if I would say this is a bad decision. A 3rd and 6, they bring the blitz, and he takes a shot to Jamison. I think he kind of had his mind made up based on what they were showing. It looked like cover one blitz. I'm going to take the shot. I want a one-on-one here. I don't have an issue with that, but he missed the throw. He completely underthrew Jamison Williams. You got to make that throw better than that. But with that being said, he did have St. Brown underneath wide open, but I don't have an issue because it's happening so fast. You just want to get the ball out. You just got to hit the throw. He just missed the throw. But to me, that wasn't even as much as a decision-making thing as much as I didn't think his decision-making was bad. And honestly, towards the end of the game, he was making good throws. They dropped into quarters, he hit passes over the middle. You look at St. Brown. This is another reason for optimism for me. Do I expect St. Brown to drop 2 clutch passes towards the end of the game? No, that's not who St. Brown is. You don't want to be in that situation, but I'm not going to be like, well, St. Brown might drop him this week. He's not going to, all right? I don't buy that. It was an off week for him. I don't buy that happening again. So when you have a dig route that you throw in front of the safety and he takes a big hit, drops it, so you come back on a 4th and 17 and Goff throws another right in front of the safety, cover 4, good read, and all of a sudden he throws this down the way so he doesn't take the hit and he drops it. That's not something I'm stepping back like, wow, that was absolutely terrible. It's, hey, he dropped the pass. It happens. Don't fall into a 15-point hole on the road. It's why you can't have these pre-snap penalties. It's why these little things matter early because now you're down 15. It's why missing those blocks, why missing that shot to J-Maul at half, they matter because now everything like this has to be perfect. And it wasn't. It was perfect last time we played him at home. It was not perfect in this game. And things like that, I don't step away saying, man, Goff looks completely lost. He's not regressing. He's Jared Goff. He is who he is. We know who he is. And I'm telling you what I'm feeling here. I'm just telling you right out. Sell your stock if you want to. This is the same guy that I've seen all season long. To me, it's no different. He's had turnovers here and there. We've seen him. We've addressed them. They've all been unique. This is not a game where I'm like, man, he looks a lot worse than I remember. I'm like, no, this is still Jared Goff. He's still the same guy. Didn't think he played bad. I thought his decision-making was good for the most part. You just can't get in a spot where you're trailing like this and then you don't make the grabs. We know what his limitations are. I don't want to hear that, well, he can't throw it 50 yards in the air. We know this. This isn't new information. I've seen him before. I understand that's not his best throw, but the plays are there. You got to make them. You can't keep getting caught behind the chains. So sell your stock if you want to or don't. I'm not going to. I'm telling you that right now. We can revisit this weeks from now and you can tell me I was wrong. But I'll tell you what, that's how I feel about it. This team will bounce back and it won't be because of Jared Goff that they don't bounce back. I will tell you that right now. This is absolutely how I feel about this. But other things do need to be cleaned up. And again, he didn't play his best game. I addressed some of those. Another positive. Jalen Reeves-Maybin has a role, and it's not just by injury. He has a role on 3rd down. He played well in this game. He had a tip at the line of scrimmage. He also had an unblocked sack. He has a role. He deserves snaps. I'm glad that he got them. I thought if he played pretty well outside of, again, the crossing route where he was late on a couple of those rolling down to the man coverage, but he helped against run support, had an elite 4th down stop. I thought our defense was actually pretty darn solid in this game. I know I hear it, oh, their defense looks horrendous. I don't see that. I don't know. Like, I understand there's splash plays that are bad, but I didn't walk away thinking the defense was horrendous. I actually thought they played pretty well. Couple things. You can't give them the football at the 50-yard line. That's an issue. You keep giving them short fields. That's a problem. You don't pick up the 4th down. That's a problem. Then you go back on top of that. You have a 4th and 13. Get off the field. You give them a shot play because you jump off sides and Jared gets beat one-on-one. I don't walk away saying, man, this is awful as a whole. You beat on a spot play right there. It probably shouldn't have happened because of intentional grounding was missed. Not even go into that. You got beat on a spot play there. Shouldn't have happened. I didn't think the defense played terrible in this game. Was it perfect? No. All right, but it's not like it's new issues. And I actually think Derek Barnes played better in this game because I didn't think he was great last time we played him. I thought he was better, not perfect, but I thought he was better. I think you see we're limited, and it forced us to kind of try to play off of that and try to help. And they got us a few times because we tried to help other spots off that because specifically we're not getting pressure from the interior. So I thought Derek Barnes was better in this game. I thought Alex had a really rough start. I think Cam Sutton played well after missing the pass breakup early. It seemed like he played pretty well. Offensive line-wise, I will say this. There was a lot of runs in there where we were able to kind of work behind Jonah Jackson and consistently roll behind the left side of the offensive line. I think that's a positive. I don't know that he played great in this game. Again, I'll probably have to rewatch that again to really just focus on him individually. But we were able to do a lot of work behind Jonah Jackson, and we needed to be able to be capable of that in this game. And not to say he played perfect, but we needed to be capable of that. And I think we were able to have success kind of going at him, whether that was through outside zones or trap run plays. Obviously, David Montgomery played extremely well as well towards the end of this football game. I mean, he played really well. but the blocking was also on point as well. And I think being able to run behind that left side of the offensive line was a real positive in this game. And early the unbalanced offensive line looks were pretty crafty from Ben Johnson. Okay, I know I got on Ben for some things there, but he was pretty crafty. I mean, using an unbalanced offensive line with 6 offensive line, Skipper at right tackle, and he put Penei Sewell on the opposite side, running towards that and then running away from it and breaking a play with Jahmyr Gibbs because you go away from where the strength of your offensive line is. It was some creativity to give us some success rushing the football there, specifically early in the second quarter in this game to have success to move the football. And then obviously they had to get a little creative off of it with James Williams and St. Brown, and they were able to get some positives. But that was really the key, going positive on first down. Once that stopped happening, things got really bad for us. And the Lions may have something in Kendall Vildor, which I kind of think they do. Another positive, KO. He was solid in pass pro. He wasn't perfect, but he seemed solid in pass protection. I mean, it seemed like he was able to hold up okay in this game. So I think that's a positive. We need to figure out who can play for depth, and for him to be kind of in and out, I give him credit there to now flip to right guard and honestly not look terrible. It's not the best interior defensive line, understandable, but he didn't look awful, and that's something that we may need a little bit longer. We'll see, but I think we do need Frank Ragnow back for sure. Key takeaways, key notes from this video after my initial rewatch. Things might change when I see the all-22s, so there's certain things I may have said today that I missed, and I'm like, ooh, I think that was actually better, but I do think there was positives. I think there was negatives. I think a lot of things we kind of know are issues that aren't new. They didn't surprise me or take me off guard, but also at the same time, the Lions got to figure out what everybody has issues. Find a way to hide them. You got to find a better way to hide them, and a lot of that winning hides things. You know, people say that like in the locker room. It also hides things when you win games like this. Like, okay, nothing seemed that great bad because we won the football game. There was a lot of good things I thought we did defensively, but all the little things get amplified when you lose the football game, and that's understandable. I get it, but I'm here to tell you what I see and break it down individually. We can look at this as like a whole blanket and just say everything's bad because we lost the football game. I'm not going to do that, though. I'm going to tell you what I saw, and I'm going to do it specifically, and based on this game, I'm not writing anything off. There's nothing to me that like changed anything because I don't think there's any major differences. And I'm like, who is this team? Who are we watching? I don't feel that way necessarily. I do feel like that way in terms of the penalties. I was like, what the heck is this? And St. Brown dropping passes. But to me, it's not like I'm like, oh man, this is it. We're done now. Like I don't see that. With that being said, though, I think we will bounce back. But this was not our best game.
BetUS, America's favorite sports book, where you can bet on everything anytime. Sportsbook, casino, horse racing, live betting, and more. We have the best bonuses in the industry. That's right, get a 125% sign-up bonus. And to celebrate our 30-year anniversary, we are giving up to 30 risk-free bets, a truck, Super Bowl tickets, and more. Don't miss out. Play smart. Join now. BetUS, where the game begins.
Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and I'm out.